Welcome back to Project Calm. My name is James. I'm your host, and today we have a super special guest on the show, Melanie. Super nice to meet you. How's your day going?
Well, other than these technical difficulties.
Oh yeah, for those of you guys listening, there was a bit of technical
But I'm
difficulties, so
I'm
feeling calm. I
yes.
love it. Yeah. If you don't mind, would you be open to sharing with the audience kind of like who you are and like what you do, kind of like a little bit about yourself, please?
Sure. Boy, where to start? I guess in a little tiny nutshell, I'm a retired dancer. That was my vocation. I taught for several years, performed for many years. Grew up just outside of Washington, D.C. My father was a musician. We were very immersed in the arts. 72, married 50 years, three kids, seven grandchildren. Um, yeah, so I'm not sure what all you want to know, but ask
No,
away.
no, that was amazing. What made you? Oh, did you get into dancing just because your father was a musician and your whole family because you were surrounded with arts your whole life, or was there like a specific thing that happened in your life that made you go like, I really want to be a dancer?
No, there was not a specific thing that happened. I just grew up immersed in music, and at 3 years old, my mother's best friend was a ballet dancer with the Washington Ballet Company, and she was teaching. So I went in her classes, and the rest took off from there.
Do you still do dancing on your off time?
No, I retired. We just moved to Virginia from Indiana this summer, and I'm hoping to at least take some classes. I'm not sure if I want to teach anymore. I'd rather just dance and enjoy.
Yeah.
Not that I didn't enjoy it, but it was a long career and very fruitful. Just ready to not
Take
be
it.
in the driver's seat, I think. So we'll see.
Got got it. Um, what if where does your mental health journey kind of like start? Like what led you to this point where you wanted to kind of give calm a try?
Oh boy. you know, Ever since last night, I've been thinking, how do I condense this down? It's a story with a lot of twists and turns. Um, Looking back now, I'm of a generation that didn't really have the language of anxiety. There was no panic disorder, generalized anxiety, none of that. I had some real trauma in my life. I had a couple childhood episodes that just went away on their own. A little bit in junior high. I think both of those were kind of connected to hormonal changes going on in me.
Mhm.
And I also noted when I was pregnant with each of my kids that I felt better than I than normal. It seemed like I was more calm. And then when it hit me really bad again was when I began perimenopause. So there is that particular aspect of it going on.
Mhm.
Um, but grew up in the 50s, 60s, was a full blown hippie chick, and all that went with it, the partying, the drugs, all of that. I probably set myself up for some of that. Um, I don't know. But at age 20, that's when the bottom fell out and it was full blown panic disorder. It literally hit me overnight. It didn't just creep up on me. And the sad thing is, I didn't know what hit me. Nobody knew what to do with it. I was accused of just wanting attention. You know all the drill probably. So my boyfriend at the time, his father was an internist, and he ran all kinds of tests on me, which of course showed nothing. So they sent me on to a doctor of psychiatry, who, long story short, put me on six medications without informed consent, never told me one word about side effects. I was 20 years old. I didn't know anything. And you can imagine what that did to my brain chemistry. I was a mess, but unfortunately, I was, knocked for a loop so badly by the panic. I thought it was all me. I thought I was losing my mind. And I walked around for about a year like that, barely functioning, no one really understanding or there for me. I began to have suicidal ideation, and I would stand outside of it and go, "No, this is not you. This is not what you want. You don't want to die." But after a while, that took over, um, and I'd say maybe a year, I don't know, 14 months into it, I swallowed all the bottles of pills all at once. When they found me, I'd quit breathing, rushed me to the ER. The doctor that was there was my boyfriend's doctor. He was attending in the ER that night. Called my family together, said she's not going to make it. I was in a deep coma, not breathing, beginning to shut down. And I attribute my being here to my boss at the time. Um, was a new Christian and had an all night prayer vigil for me. And I woke up 2.5 weeks later on a ventilator. I'd been on a ventilator all that time, um, and slowly came out of the coma. And that's when my life really changed spiritually. Um, I began to, look into faith and God. And um, I had been going to school out of state in Ohio at the University of Dayton, and I had to drop out because I couldn't function. I went back to school at a very small little college in our town, or the next town over, began to meet a lot of Christian people, met my husband there, and was married, was engaged a month and a half later and married within 6 months. And that was 50 odd years ago. So flash forward, when he met me, that was the summer of my suicide attempt. And I didn't realize then that I was very much in protracted withdrawal from all of it. Um, and it took me well over a year to kind of return to any normalcy at all. But he married me this way. He loved me through it. He supported me. We joined a church, began to uh, cultivate friendships, fellow believers, and things began to level off. But it has followed me through my life. Sometimes a lot more manageable than others. Um, the other thing that's very difficult about it, for me at least, is it's not always connected to stress. Sometimes everybody who knows me will say, "You are great in a crisis," and I am. Um, I mean, there were times where it was perfectly peaceful and I would have terrible anxiety, and I will never understand it. And there were days where I was totally free, quote, normal. And then other days where I would be in the very same situation and it would be awful. So that's part of the code I have not ever cracked as to why. Um, so, I struggled with it. It's ironic that I was in front of people, teaching and dancing. There were times where it was beautiful, wonderful, fulfilling, and other times where I wanted to throw up backstage, because I was so overwhelmed with the anxiety. So let's see, it would have been about 1984, and I just had my third child. And we were watching the program 60 Minutes,
Mm-hmm.
and they were touting this miracle drug, this new miracle drug for anxiety. It was called Xanax. And the guy that was on there had a whole entire book about it. And I'm going, oh my gosh, I didn't know what a benzodiazepine was. All I heard was miracle drug. So I rushed out, bought the book, and I realized that I was still nursing my baby. I wasn't about to go on anything that would, alter her. So I wait till I weaned her, went on the Xanax. I found a family doctor at our church who read the book with me, was willing to support me in it, didn't know anything about it, didn't want to deal with a psychiatrist. And So we began that journey, and um, I built tolerance really, really quickly. In fact, excuse me, I got up to 9 milligrams of Xanax, which is a whopping dose. And then I realized, okay, something's going on. We didn't have the language for it, didn't quite understand it, but I knew I had to get off. So I began to wean myself off, had terrible withdrawal, um, thought it was going to destroy me. And then another guy that went to our church worked in a pain management clinic and had um, some exposure to people having dependency issues with medications. And he helped me map out a chart. Looking back now, we were in the right direction. It was way too quick. So I came out of that bedridden. Um, Other people had to care for my children. I was so ill with withdrawal. Somehow came out of that, went to an alternative doctor to repair my gut and my brain, all of it. So let's see. um, Flash forward to 20, about, let's see, I don't know, the year isn't important. When I hit 51 is when I started um, perimenopause. And up to that point, I had self-managed again after the last ordeal I talked to you about. I just thought, okay, I just have to, this is part of who I am. I just have to learn to self-manage. I did. There were real hard struggles and there were victories. But when I hit 51, my primary menopausal symptom was not hot flashes and the things that plague women. It was severe insomnia. And I think part of that was adrenal malfunction because, I was teaching classes at night and performing at night. And my cortisol was all flip flopped. It was very elevated at night, tanked in the morning. So anyway, the big hormonal shifts that happened during that time, that hit me like a ball bat. And I was not able to sleep more than two hours interrupted, sometimes 1 hour. And I struggled that way, still teaching, still performing, still being a grandmother to my grandchildren, just trying to keep normal life until 2.5 years into that, we had a family crisis. I could not function. It was devastating. When you can't sleep,
Everything goes down.
it does. It
Everything.
does. And you don't have the physical reserves, you don't have the mental, emotional reserves.
Mhm.
And I was desperate. So against my greater judgment, I thought I've exhausted everything under the sun. And I need to backtrack a little bit. You name it, I've tried it. And I mean some really serious stuff: brain retraining, biofeedback, Fisher Wallace device for insomnia, all kinds of nutritional stuff, chelation, you name it.
Mhm.
Thousands of dollars later, in addition to hormonal therapy, nothing was helping me. So I went back to my local, I call them pimps, psychiatrist, put me on Lexapro, low-dose Seroquel, and Klonopin.
Mhm.
And again, without informed consent. I guess a person could argue, well, maybe you knew better, maybe you should have asked. I was in no position. I just had to function and try to sleep. And boy, did I sleep. I was so heavily medicated. I couldn't get out of bed until like 11 o'clock in the morning. Um, so I rolled along that way for a couple of years. And then I thought, this is nuts. It's not solving anything. Um, so I weaned myself off the Lexapro and the Seroquel over a year's time. A lot of that was masked by the Benzo, by the
Mhm.
Klonopin. So it wasn't too terrible. Um, when I hear other people's stories that are really, really awful, that part of it wasn't too terrible for me. But I knew the Benzo was going to be really rough, and I just really immersed myself in educating myself, Ashton manual, all of that stuff, and wound up there was nobody in my area that would support me. They all said it can't be done. The doctor that I went to after I succeeded, before we moved, he told me, "You are the only one in my nearly 50 years of practice that I ever saw successfully go off the cocktail and a benzodiazepine." And because of me, they now have a nurse practitioner in place who is learning about how to safely taper people and help them through the journey. Um, so let me see here. Where did I leave off? I told you it was complicated. Probably way more information than you want, and you can edit
No.
as you please. Um, so okay, yeah. So I wound up nobody willing to help me in my area. I had to fly to a doctor in Texas, in San Antonio, who took me on. He said, "You have to come see me one time to be legal, and then we can do everything virtually." Um, wonderful, wonderful, beautiful man. He was a heart surgeon who, in his residency, couldn't sleep, started on benzos, and went through it all. So he knew we didn't have to explain anything to him. Um, he had me reinstated because he said, "You are way too fragile. You know, you tried to get off of this. You're in terrible withdrawal. We need to reinstate you, let your body calm down, and then we'll do this." And I didn't want to do that, but I took him at his word. So I did. And I would say we slowly tapered over a year's period. I had it all mapped out. It was still too fast for my body, but I thought, no, I'm doing this. I'm toughing it out. I want off this stuff. And I'd say probably within 4 months of beginning the taper, I felt it intensely. And the lower I got, the worse it got. When I hit ground zero, as we call it, all hell broke loose. And I went through 2 years of severe protracted withdrawal. I could barely function. I looked like a Parkinson's patient because I had such severe muscle spasms and shaking. I practically every withdrawal symptom that you can name I had.
Mhm.
Um, there's a reason that they say it's worse than heroin. It really is. At least with heroin, you know it's going to be over within about 3 weeks. Um, I'd say the first year was a lot of nerve damage manifesting, a lot of physical sensations. The second year went more into the derealization type thing, and there was nothing that I could do to calm my body down, calm my brain down. And I meant to begin this interview by telling you and saying to whoever might slog through listening to this, calm is the only thing ever that's helped me. I hardly know what to say. Thank you. I'm so sorry you had to go through what you have had to. But if
Mhm.
this led to what I regard as this seems like your ministry to people. And it's it's been like a miracle for me. I'll try to finish this story up. Um, so I made it through somehow, was in pretty bad shape. My anxiety, of course, came back, um, self managing again. But I don't know if you've ever experienced this in your journey. I kept Xanax on hand, PRN strictly. Um,
Mhm.
and it was almost a placebo effect, knowing, oh, well, I've got this in my purse if I have a panic attack, or I've got it in the bathroom. I didn't take it very often. Um, but then my youngest daughter, Molly, was having her second child. We had to travel to Pennsylvania. Long story short, she hemorrhaged. I had a toddler to take care of, cooking, laundry, brand new baby, all of it. I had to sleep, and I was not sleeping. I was back to my 1.5, 2 hours of sleep. So very tearfully, every night I took that Xanax, and I knew what it was doing to me, but I didn't want my problems to be hers. I wanted to be there for her.
Mhm.
And so I took it for about a month like that. I got home, called the doctor right away. I'm sorry. He's booked up for the next 3 months. And I said, I'm in trouble. I need help. Couldn't get in. Family doctor didn't, nobody was, again, it's this recurring theme of no proper help. So unfortunately, the doctor that had helped me through the taper before died. Um, the organization, which was called Point of Return, helped me um, make some really tough decisions. And these were all people that had lived this and been through this, and they had a team of, um, a board of directors that had doctors and pharmacists and whatnot on it. But Alessandra Rain was her name. I don't know if you've heard of that organization, but again, they said, I'm really sorry, but you are so fragile. You have to be reinstated on a longer acting because, a shorter acting one is dreadful to get off, even worse than the longer acting one. So they reinstated me to Klonopin. And I thought, how can I be in this again? And so it was another battle. I learned a lot more. I I would highly advocate to anyone who's listening to this, if you are embarking on any kind of taper journey, that you look into Dr. Joseph Witt Daring. Are you familiar with that name? Yeah.
No,
No.
but um, I was going to ask you if there's, because I get a lot of text messages of people who are trying to do their first taper in benzos, and as a person who's tapered myself in the past and I got seizures, just
Yes.
um like I tell them like it like you need professional help. So I was gonna ask you like if there's someone's watching this and they they're feeling the withdrawals kicking in and feeling overwhelming, what are some things that you've learned along your journey that maybe that they can pull into their journey?
Yes. Absolutely. Um, Dr. Is Joseph, Josef, Witt, Witt dash DOE, oops, Deering, Doerring, Joseph Witt Daring. He's becoming very well known now. He has a YouTube channel. He has a free e-letter, which is excellent. He does a lot of podcasts like yours. He has instructional videos. He has taper clinics around, and they've been in such demand that they've been hard to get into. But um, I think it's been within this last year, he offers free taper materials that are designed for the layperson and your doctor. And it's excellent. It's really cutting edge, good stuff.
Mhm.
Um, I think he is absolutely spot on about it all. He used to be in the industry, the pharma industry, and he is board certified psychiatrist who was in practice, began to see all of this happening, going, okay, this is so not right. And knowing what the pharma companies were asking of him, I mean, we won't even go down that dark rabbit hole. It's anybody who's in this world knows. So he did an about face, and he said, I'm going to operate differently. I'm going to tell the truth, and I'm going to help people through these things. And he's not totally anti-meds because he believes that there may be a short-term time and place for them. Um, so anyways, that's who I would absolutely recommend anybody turn to. Um, so that's, I used his taper program when I did this final taper, which was, I finished a year ago this past June. I had very little post taper withdrawal. It was very mild and it was short lived. And the difference was I went at a steady pace and then I began to micro taper. When I began to feel symptomatic more toward the end, I just took the doses way, way down, drug it out, held at times, held like for a month at a time, let my body stabilize before I went down again. It was a different mindset than before of what, I'm just going to push through this and I'm just going to do this and, who cares what happens? It's like, no, I'm not going to do this to my body again.
Mhm.
So got through it. But again, um, what happened to me, and is probably common for a lot of people, if you know anything at all, your GABA receptors and your glutamate receptors should be in balance. And when you take a benzo, it completely takes over the GABA. and it just they don't know whether whether it actually shuts down the GABA receptors or just kind of puts them to sleep. Who really knows? But the insomnia kicked in terrible again. And so I began cycling my Xanax 3 days on so I could only go about 4 days with no sleep. And I began cycling it until I began to experience what I had hoped against. And I was buying time, trying to find something that would work for me. Um, so the kindling effect started this summer. Are you
What's
familiar
the
with
kindling effect?
kindling? It's well documented. It's a neuroadaptive response
Mhm.
that your brain and your body are. How do I? I'll tell you to look it up. But it's like when you. It's almost like jerking your brain around. Like when I was taking it 3 days on, it never fully left my system enough, and I was like this,
Mhm.
and then it creates another. It's like withdrawal. It begins to have almost a paradoxical effect. It did make me sleep, but I would feel so awful. 3 days on, when I would go off, I would feel like I was going through withdrawal all over again, and just getting desperate. I made it through this move here, which was a big flaming deal, and was trying all kinds of things again, and just feeling like utterly hopeless. Like, how am I going to do this? And I saw your um, I think I saw you on Facebook. Yeah. And then signed up for your e-letter, and I was skeptical, so skeptical. I did believe that it would work for people, but skeptical that it wouldn't work for me because nothing ever has.
Mhm.
And I was resistant. It was my husband that said nope. He started reading it all, looking over the site, and he said, let's try this. We've got nothing to lose. And I wrote you all my questions, and stuff if it doesn't work, and blah blah blah. And I want to tell people too that you have been wonderful in your corresponding. I don't know how you do it. How do you do it?
I is during when it gets busy, I sacrifice my sleep and I condense all my meals into one big meal. And
I,
so I know it's not something I can do in the long run, but then I know that
you
this is
know,
kind of necessary. I'm utilizing my youth while I can, and
yeah,
then I'm hopefully like I can get to a point. It's because we're still in that beginning stages. I like to compare like having a small business is like having a child. In the beginning,
yeah,
it needs attention, constant attention. You don't get nights, you don't get weekends, holidays out the window. And then as the child grows or as the business grows, you can kind of let your hands off and let it do its thing.
right.
But right now, we're still in those early stages. So it's
In
just a
the in
lot
the
of,
diaper and no sleep method, or yeah, diaper and
yeah.
no uh, yeah realm of childbirth or childhood. Yeah, no, I get it. Just running my own dance school and business. I know. No
Yeah.
rest for the weary, but thank you. Thank you so much. And I do hope and pray that you can get somebody to help you in this. I know you're passionate about it. It really shows.
Mhm.
So we got your product. Um, I was in the throes of my kindling effect. I took the first dose of KALM, and I was having really, my body was vibrating, brain zaps, all of it. And I took my first dose, and within a half an hour, that began to really tamp down. And I'm going, no, no. And I thought it was just, you know, coincidence. And it's kept happening. It's been what, 6 weeks?
Mhm.
I don't know if it's been that long or not, but I definitely feel something is happening. And I'm going to say it again. I sound like a broken record, but nothing has ever had a dramatic effect on me like this.
Mhm.
And I have not taken the benzo for sleep this whole time, which is miraculous too.
Not a single one.
No, one time, yes, one time,
Oh,
one night, but that was,
yeah.
and my sleep is it's improving a little bit. Like for me, I'll usually wind down between 11:30 and midnight, sleep till
Mhm.
2:30 or 3:30, which is a miracle for me. And the other odd thing that's been happening is usually when I would wake up, that's it, I'm done. And if I read on my Kindle for a little while, I'm usually able to go back to sleep for another hour maybe. And that's not a lot of sleep, but for somebody who's operated on an hour or two, it's pretty miraculous. And during the daytime, I feel a lot calmer. I am continuing to go and I have waves still of withdrawal, but whenever I do, I take a little bit more and it seems to, have that calming effect again. We were sitting in a restaurant Sunday and I felt a very almost like a flash of sudden like that feeling right before you're gonna have a panic attack, like, oh no, hyper alert. And it was like I looked down at my food and I thought, I'm not gonna be able to finish this. I'm gonna have to leave the restaurant. That hasn't happened to me in a long, long time. And then as suddenly as that struck me, it just dissipated and went away. And that historically does not happen to me.
Mhm.
So I've got someone that I love dearly that is in the throes of going off an SSRI, and I just sent him um, the Calm and the Zen. I will say for myself that I know it works differently for everybody. Like you said, I really had high hopes that the Zen would relax me physically more to make me sleep.
Mhm.
It didn't. I find that the Calm product itself is what seems to be working the
Working
best
better.
for me.
Okay.
So don't really understand that, but
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm sure Zen works beautifully for some people, but
Yeah. It's to be completely honest, it's because like there's like the intended effect, right? So like when you create the recipe, you intend for something to happen. But it's so weird how like I've had over maybe like a little bit like almost like 15,000 conversations with people like are texting asking about their stories, seeing what I can do to help and things like this.
oh
And
my god,
I've seen like the wildest range of like responses, and I just accept that everyone's body is different. It's
yeah,
impossible for the same thing to happen to everyone. Um, but
yeah.
when you are going through this constant these brutal downs, like what like was where was your mind at? Like was there like something that kept you pushing forward, or something that you uh, that helped, because you need to have a strong mind to continue powering forward, and then just go like, man, I'm about to go through this again. And it's like it's just something that helped you like mentally in all of this.
Um, well, this is going to sound very canned to a lot of people.
Hmm.
My faith,
Hmm.
if it weren't for God, I'd be dead. I'd be long dead. I would not. When I first with the first terrible incident I told you about, I was not happy to be alive when I woke up out of it. And I told God, I literally said, okay, I'm giving it 6 months, and if something doesn't change, I'm going to do it again, and this time I will succeed. Um, and then a lot changed. I have a very supportive partner who has never, ever, ever shamed me, never put pressure on me. He knows that nobody chooses to live like this with an anxiety disorder. It's really a mystery for a lot of people. We know certain components. We know that neurotransmitters are made more in the gut than the brain, and that gut dysbiosis, all of that stuff feeds into it. And then we all have certain psychological makeup that we kind of come out with, I think.
Hmm.
We all have different traumas at some point in our lives. I mean, that's just life for a lot of people. Um, so, but just a steely determination that this was not going to define who I was. This was not, I just wasn't going to give up. I I attribute that to God's grace that He instilled that in me because this is brutal stuff. To not sleep, to go through repeated severe withdrawal, to not have support. I mean, other than my husband. And I don't know what your experience was, but unless you've walked in these shoes, people just don't have the capacity very well to,
It's very hard to understand. Like,
yeah,
it's very hard to understand someone who is struggling with mental health if you don't struggle yourself, because they just
right,
compare what they know, which is just like maybe getting a little bit anxious about a work project or something like that. But
right,
then like
right.
anxiety disorder, like when it gets super severe, it's just to the point where you can't even do like get out of the bed or leave the house, or and it's from thoughts. It's like
Yeah,
it's like nothing physical, but then it's like all these what ifs, and like wondering everything that went wrong, and like just constantly, for me, I shame myself saying I'm not
yes,
good enough.
yeah,
And it's like maybe I should, maybe if I just lay under this blanket it will all go away, but it just doesn't. But then just like you're just trying to, it's just
no,
so crippling. And then um
yes,
and like it's like, and the thing about Xanax is when you take Xanax for the first time after years of living with that debilitating anxiety, you finally feel normal for the first
oh,
day.
I know, yeah,
It's like magic, and you're like, wait a minute, I didn't know this was possible. So then you do it again, you do it again, you do it again, and it's just, and
yeah,
no one tells you, hey, if you do this for two over a year straight, you're gonna be taking a lot more, and good luck coming off. It's
yeah, I
it,
know,
it's just, yeah. But I think like right now we are going towards a better direction. I think like with the awareness of the damages of, like, I'm not gonna say like there's no place in the world for Xanax. I know there is
yeah,
place in the world, but then just
yeah,
I think it was just a little bit too overprescribed. It was like it shouldn't be the first line of defense.
right,
Um, but I think right now, society and medicine is kind of like they finally, they snapped out of it. They're like, oh wait, this isn't as of a magical pill as we thought it was. Like it's actually kind of dangerous. So I think
mhm,
we're heading towards the right direction, and we're not quite there yet. So curious to see where things will be. And mental health is just such a, it's like no one we don't know anything about mental health. We don't know what causes it. We
no,
know bits and pieces here and there, but then the human brain is just so complex. So I'm just hoping that maybe one day, maybe our medicine will get to a point where we'll understand the brain a little bit better. So there's
right,
a safer, so they can develop a safer option than Xanax. And that's what I was trying to do. I'm just trying to create something that's not
yeah,
as bad as Xanax, and just something that I personally wish I had during my darkest days. And I'm hoping that with this cool thing I created, I can help someone else out there who might be going through a rough period in life.
absolutely, yeah. Well, I do believe that there's also a genetic component to it.
Of course. Yeah.
Another rabbit trail I went down was the DNA testing. I do have a family history of depression, anxiety, insomnia. My grandmother was a terrible insomniac. Um, but and I found out that I have that nasty MTHFR mutation. I don't know if you're familiar with any of that. And people like me we don't methylate properly. We don't the very B vitamins that are responsible for a lot of neurotransmitter production, we don't utilize them right. And it makes us ultra sensitive to many, many different things in our environment. And detox pathways are really impaired when you have this. So it's like I referred to earlier, I have all these puzzle pieces that kind of fit, but not all of them. And there's many, many different aspects of this. It's so complex. And conversely, the word tells us we are fearfully and wonderfully made, that we have the ability to heal in body, mind, and spirit. And um, when any one of those gets out of whack, it throws the others out of kilter too. So I think throughout my journey, another thing that I kept telling myself is that I want to, God willing, live long enough that I can realize more of my full potential for what He wants out of me, um, and also to, I think is what I wrote to you earlier, to redeem this journey. I know because of what you're doing that if you feel like you can help one other person through what you've been through, then that somehow redeems it all and it makes it have a purpose instead of feeling like, why did this happen to me? Why am I experiencing this? What is the end game here? And we're told that everything works together for our good. So I'm operating on that as well. But it's been it's been a wild ride. It's been really hard. Um, so, but again, finding your KALM product, I can't tell you what that's done for me emotionally as well as physically, mentally, to know that I do have something that will bring me relief. I don't know if there might be a circumstance or two where I might have to take a Xanax. I don't know. I'm still glad it's there for those kinds of, I mean, to ever use it on a regular basis, I would never advocate anybody do longer than a week or two. And it's documented that within 2 weeks' time, you can create dependency in some people.
Mhm.
But I also know what it's like to suffer so badly and when you have to get through something. But I found myself lately getting through things that I'm feeling calmer on this product. I'm not just strictly toughing it out because
Yeah.
I'm sure if you have anxiety, we all know what avoidance behavior is. There is a behavioral component to it. We don't like to talk about that, but it's true.
Mhm.
It's like you referred to earlier when the bottom drops out and you go into this shame, blame, and what if, and there's so many triggers. Like a certain, I bet you can almost remember every bad panic attack you've ever had, where you were,
Mhm.
what the circumstances were at least, and you want to avoid those situations. That avoidance behavior is very strong because it's like your body is falsely telling you danger, danger. This might happen again. Um, so yeah, to have something that is natural that I know is not going to be harming my gut, not going to be harming my poor little brain that's already been through the ringer, been through enough, feels feels really good. I don't know if you've ever talked to someone through all this, how many times, but I, I didn't set out for any of that to happen that way. The first time I didn't know anything. The second time I saw this wonderful stuff on TV and a best-selling book. And the third time it was do it or die.
Mhm.
And then the fourth time it was like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to help my daughter. I have no choice. I have to sleep or I will shut down. So, but I didn't have anything like calm. Didn't have anything to help me. And something that made me feel really good this summer, um, the doctor that prescribed, the original prescribing doctor, I want to give him credit. He is a product of modern day psychiatry. They're, as you know, they're very pill oriented. There's a pill for every ailment. You just have to find the right one. Nothing in the way really of counsel or therapy. But he was very kind, very trusting, very patient. We had a good working relationship. I felt heard. He supported me when I chose to do the taper, but I know he was also glad that I had another doctor, working with me on that because he really truly didn't know anything about it. Um, but when we were saying our goodbyes this summer before I moved, he not only told me about the nurse practitioner, in the clinic now, but also said, you are absolutely probably one of the bravest people I've ever met. We don't tend to think of ourselves that way. There's when you look around and it feels like the world is passing you by and everybody is normal, but we're not normal. And things that come so easy to people that they don't even think about, we dissect, we're so fine tuned to our bodies, to our physiological responses.
Wait, I think the audio got cut off. I'm so sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think you were saying that you before you said goodbyes, you visited the doctor, the first psychiatrist, and who now has a nurse practitioner. And I think I completely agree with you. It's like when they come out, these doctors, first off, there's sales reps coming in telling them about this miracle drug, and the doctors don't know much themselves because they're not taking it, right? And
right, right.
usually when the pharmaceutical companies, I hope they don't start targeting me, but when they release their studies, they're going to hide the negatives and they only release the positive studies. And
Sure.
then it's also like who's funding these studies. So there's a lot of moving parts, and a lot of opportunity for a little bit of shady business. But overall, I know that medicine is a beautiful thing. It's saving so many lives out there. But then it's there's nothing in life that's like that's 100% good outside of God. It's just there's nothing in life that's 100% good, and like a few bad apples can really ruin the whole batch.
Yeah,
Um,
there's always opportunists out there. That's
mhm,
the world we live in, you know. But
yeah.
one thing I do want to interject is Dr. Whit Daring talks a lot about what you just touched on,
Mhm,
and you know what to look for. I mean, he has some. I'll send you when I get off. I'll send you. I save a lot of his e-letters, his articles, and he talks a lot about what it was like to be an insider in the industry, and a lot about the studies, the very faulty studies. They've never, if I remember right, they've never gone beyond a 2 month study of SSRIs. I don't know about benzos, but that's not long enough to know anything. And, I mean, let alone they don't know anything about long term whatsoever. So, uh, yeah, I mean, you couldn't be more right about that. And it's it's a it's a razor's edge because I don't ever judge anybody that goes on meds, having been there myself. And I know that kind of desperation where this is survival and you have to do something or you're not going to make it. I get it. Um, but I don't often say much unless I would know the person or they would ask, but I would always add a caution that, yes, go ahead and do this, but please short term and please, make sure you've addressed the other things that need to be part of this whole equation. And
mhm.
it's rough. It's so tough. Um, but, hope is out there. And when you lost the audio on me, my husband popped in and I said something about, I don't know who's going to want to listen to any of this. And he said, oh, you underestimate yourself, your story, so, hopefully it will, see my hair stick up. Hopefully it will reach somebody out there. I don't know. I meant to start out saying at the very top of the interview that um, how much the KALM product has been helping me. And it's like people are going to have to get halfway into this before they hear that part of it. So I'm really sorry. I didn't think of that at the starting gate, but
I think how this conversation started, it started perfectly. I wouldn't change a thing, and I believe similarly with you. Like I believe everything in life happens for a reason, and like maybe all the ups and downs brought you to today so you can share your story, and this story goes and saves a life out there, right? So like
you know,
I it's this this story is truly heartwarming, and I believe that it's for those of you out there listening who are in a similar boat. stories like this really can really give hope, and sometimes hope is like all you need. um,
Yes.
and it's because it's so easy to want to give up when things are just so painful.
Yeah. When you don't see any change on the horizon, a little bit of hope goes a long way. Even
Mm.
if you're far from your goal, when you can see something shifting, something happening,
Mhm.
that carries you forward. And um, yeah, I want to stress to people, you've got nothing to lose in trying this, and to really give it, an absolute try in the manner that you have prescribed,
Mhm.
to flood your system with it. I hope I can get to the point where I can back it down. I'm not going to do that for a while, but yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know.
it's the healing process. I think one crucial um, piece of the puzzle is to know that the healing process isn't going to. It's patience is required. Like
Yeah,
when I remember when I was trying to heal my things, like I was always looking for what's that one miracle thing I can do with the least amount of energy that's going to overturn things overnight. And I
yeah, doesn't work. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, and then the only thing that does that is Xanax, but at what cost? But like, it's like it's when you enter the journey with that mindset, like I see a lot of people fall into the same thing that I fell into, is when you're hopping from one thing to I think it's just for a specific example, like one of the biggest things that has helped me with my mental health is exercise, just having an outlet for all the negative energy. And I think just exercises, especially when you first get started, just seeing yourself hit the goals, the micro goals of I can add 5 pounds this week, I can add 5 pounds weight, I'm getting a little bit stronger. Just having something that uh, just the constant process of setting goals, attaining that goals, setting goals, attaining that goal, told me like, hey, if I put my mind to something, I can actually do it. And I think just that was one of the biggest things. And like I get when I tell people like, hey, like exercising, trying to minimize social media or cleaning up your diet, all these things, they're not miracle cures for your mental health, but they all go into supporting your mental health. And I get
Yeah.
when I tell people this, they go like, I ate clean for 3 days, I didn't notice any difference, so I'm gonna stop. And then they go to
Oh,
the
no.
next, they try meditation for like 3 days. I didn't feel anything in meditation, so I'm gonna go to the next thing. So I think there's a lot of patience that needs to go into it. But it's hard, especially when you don't see the results bearing fruit. You're like, why the heck am I even wasting my time? So I understand that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's human nature. We all go into magical thinking.
Yeah.
We all want the instant fix. That's just human nature, especially when you're suffering so badly. Um, but and I guess I had almost reached a point before I got the calm of almost just throwing up my hands completely and thinking, okay, I'm not sinking any more money or effort into anything else. Maybe this is just my fate. I don't know. I was just so weary, and of course not sleeping really adds to all of that. But I a tipping point for me was when I tried the brain retraining. It was with a doctor out of Colorado
Mhm.
who is very well known. Um, it would be kind of like Dr. Daniel Amen,
Oh
who
yeah.
does imaging. Yeah. So I wound up. He sent me a very sophisticated biofeedback machine, thousands of dollars insured, and I had to be hooked up to that. And I was hooked up virtually to his computer and machinery in Colorado, and I had to be in ketosis, and I had to do it 4 hours a day. I would sit in front of a screen, and there were, I don't know if you know much about brain retraining, it's not really important, but there are subtle, almost like subliminal things that the brain registers that you may not see or hear, but it's there. So I was watching one of my favorite shows when I would do this, but it these waves and things were interjected in there. And at the end of the day, he would have feedback from my brain waves, and he could see where, now I'm going to get them all mixed up, alpha, beta, delta, theta. I forget which the excitatory ones are, but he could see that the excitatory ones had come way down, but by a few hours later, they would just shoot right back up again with no rhyme or reason. So I did this for an entire summer, thousands of dollars, no help. You talk about being at a low point.
Mhm.
So that's one example of several of, I think what you're what you were touching upon is, investing so much time and energy into something that is documented that has helped other people, but then you hit the wall and you have to face that as it's okay, it's one more thing. And my husband, he's so good about it. He would say, well, okay, we know that's one more thing that we can take off the table. That's not going to work for you, but we tried.
Mhm.
And I would sit there in tremendous guilt, saying, thinking, well, there's $6,000 we flushed down the drain. But it's all a mindset, and so I mean, I'd be lying if I was sitting here and said I'm not as shocked as the next person that the calm worked for me, when none of this other stuff did. And I also tried a lot. I mean, a lot of CBD products, and I
Mhm.
know this is CBD. And I tried hemp products. I lost track of how many, and they either didn't help or they had a nasty paradoxical effect. And
Mhm.
that made me a little bit frightened to try this, even though I understood there's no THC in it and all that stuff. Because um, I know that people who have the MTHFR mutation oftentimes are affected paradoxically by THC. I was one of them. Oh, my stars. It made me crazy with. Um, Same thing happens if I take a non-methylated form of B9, methylfolate. If I take a methylated form, it makes me highly agitated, anxious, physically. I want to jump out of my skin. The insomnia is even worse. So it shows you that something very physiological is going on. And for whatever it was in the CBD products, just was not a good fit. I don't know what you're doing to this hemp. I'm like the acid test for you, James. I
Yeah.
really.
I can. I have no problem sharing exactly how I make the product right now. I'll share over video. So we get the raw herbs from a small family farm, a small organic family farm up in Oregon. So we get the flour, and then me and my one of my employees and my longtime friend Edwin, we grind everything down. We have a fancy machine that grinds it down, and we have like an industrial oven, and we there's a proprietary way of us packaging things up, so to um, add heat, remove moisture and things like that, but then we put it into the oven, and once it's in the oven, we're at 300 something 18 seconds, we're increasing the temperature by 2.8 degrees. At 217 seconds, we're bringing it down by 1.6 degrees. And we're doing this for several hours. So the process, for us to figure out this process, in the when I was doing the years of research, we would have like we kind of did a lot of like research beforehand, looked at like other people using heat with like hemp and things like this. So we had like some starting temperature points, but the starting temperature points didn't really give us the results what we wanted. So then I'll go like, hey, maybe what if we try adding 5 degrees here for another 218 seconds, and we'll do this for the few hours. We'll send that over for testing. It seems like moisture went up, but then the potency went down. So we got, that's not the result we want. So let's go the other way, and let's add in another temperature point at another few seconds. So this, it was just a brutal process of trial and error for
Oh,
several years.
yeah. It's like finding a needle in a haystack, and it's really a testimony of your fortitude. That we keep experimenting like this. Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
So it's like the process itself is actually super simple, just grinding down in heat. But then when people go like, "Oh, this is just grind up hemp. I can just do it myself." I go like, "Please, please, okay, I want you to understand that how much pain it took me just to figure out those temperature points."
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I like to keep it simple. And then there's also another aspect to like when it comes to hemp, there's like tens of thousands of families of hemp. So when I was putting together the recipe, I had to cold call about 500 farmers within the United States, ask them for their labs. And then if there was stuff that caught my eyes, I'll ask for samples, send them for lab testings myself. And then from the tens of thousands, I'll need to mix and match to create the recipe I have. And then the recipe, and then we'll just ask our friends and family, hey, what do you think of this one? What do you think of this one? So it was just a very long and brutal process. If I knew it was going to be that long, I probably wouldn't have done it. But I'm glad that. Uh,
No, well, yeah.
the, Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh no, it's like the child analogy you used earlier, like giving birth. If you knew ahead of time what it was going to be like, you nah, nope, probably wouldn't do it. And then immediately after, it's like it was worth it all.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's just amazing to me. I cannot fathom that this is entirely God's leading, because to have that much trial and error and to actually hit on something that is having this kind of dramatic help with people has got to be God ordained. At least that's how I look at it. You
Yeah.
know?
And I have really cool plans on how to make things better. I have like my eyes on some fancier equipments and things like that. So I'm excited to show you what I have in store for the new year.
Yeah.
Um, but if you had to kind of like summarize to paint a picture of like what your day to day was like on the weeks before calm and how your physical day to day changed on the weeks after calm, what would that look like?
Oh, well, this is going to sound classic, but I was just on a vicious roller coaster ride. You know, I I keep I hate to keep coming back to this, but insomnia, it just messes you up physically, mentally, spiritually, everything. And we're designed, we have to sleep, we have to regenerate, we have to escape. I I mean, there's that's how we're hardwired, that's how we're made. And when you don't have that in place, I just felt like I never knew who I was going to wake up to. I never knew on a given day if I could follow through on something. um, Nighttime was awful. I would just dread going to bed. I'd be so tired. But it's like, okay, I'm going to lay here for most of the night. If I didn't have a Kindle to read on, I would lose my mind. I'm not kidding you. The nights are so long when you don't sleep. And I don't know, I was in this pattern where I might fall asleep around 4:30 or 5 in the morning for like a half an hour, and then get up and just drag yourself out. And some days I operated pretty okay, and others I just couldn't get it together. I would describe myself as like feeling underwater. Like I just was underwater. I couldn't keep thought in my head on a given day. Um, couldn't process things right. It was getting bad. Uh, and I do think that the stress of making a cross country move was really, really hard. We did that when we were in our 20s one time, but when you're in your 70s, it's a bit different ball game. And we didn't have professional movers or anything, so it was a big, long, hairy ordeal. But um, I just, how your body goes on autopilot a lot of times, and you get through what you have to get through, and then you begin to fall apart. That's what I began to experience about a month after we moved here. And so it was just almost a quiet acceptance, like, okay, I only have a certain amount of fight left in me, and that fight is going to have to go to just trying to get through every day. I don't have any other alternatives. I know of nothing else out there to do. I kept telling my husband, I don't have any more magic tricks. I don't have any therapies, any protocols that I've even heard of that I would even want to invest any more time and energy in. It was like I could not take hitting one more wall. And I told God that when we set for the calm, Don was the one who said, we're doing this, whether you want to or not. And I was thinking, God, I can't take it one more time. I can't take one more investment of money, time, energy, hope especially. And when it came, I related it earlier, that first night when I was having a terrible withdrawal wave. And if anybody is really immersed in the benzo world and has studied it like I have, and the physiological things that go on, they'll understand what the kindling effect is. And it's bad. It's every bit as bad as going through a withdrawal process. It's like a mini withdrawal that keeps happening, cycling. And but I got relief that first night, and the more I got it into me, the more it's almost like so hard to describe. It's like it feels right now like it's keeping things at bay. Like when I described to you on Sunday, I could feel something start to happen, but that no, it just kept me at this certain level, and I didn't go into the full blown panic. It went away. I finished my meal. I felt fine. So God and the calm, I guess.
um, one word that I one of the podcasters told me this word, and I'm like, that's the because like I have a difficult time explaining the feeling of calm as well. Like I simplify it to it calms your mind just because everyone can understand that, but then the I
It's
always
hard.
had it's very hard to kind of uh, put your articulate things into words. And then someone said
Yeah.
resiliency, and when they said resiliency, I'm like, oh, that clicked. So I feel like life
Yes.
still happens, stress still happens, and like things, life is always gonna throw lemons at you, but you just feel more resilient. And then like if you
Yes.
end up straying out of um out of your normal, you go back to normal quicker and faster than before.
I agree. I agree. And for me, my sleep isn't ideal where I want it, but it's improved. To
Hmm.
me, getting 4 hours of sleep is a miracle.
Hmm.
I've been battling this for 21 years. This insomnia, incessant. The only time I got relief was when I was so drugged out of my mind that, you know, okay, I slept, but I didn't function very well otherwise either. Um, so yes, resiliency is a good word to put to it. I don't know. You're so right. You almost have to experience it to.
Yeah.
It is hard to articulate. Yeah. I don't know if I'm doing a very good job today of articulating anything. I'm not a public speaker. It's funny. I do not want to talk in front of people. I just got up and danced in front of people all my life. But I get it with you, what you said about, yeah.
I think it's
I think you're great, but
public speaking is a little bit harder for those with anxiety disorders, but I've yeah, I like to try to face things head on, and it's always uncomfortable. Like I'm on this is episode 21, and then yesterday when I did the 20th podcast, I'm like, man, why did I stutter? Like, oh, I should have said this. And then I'm like, I thought I would be an expert by the 20th episode. And then, but no, but
no, people enjoy seeing your human side. I think it puts us at ease. You're just a
yeah,
regular, normal person. You're not. Yeah, no, I wouldn't even worry about that.
yeah.
It's um, it's endearing in a different kind of way. And I I'm assuming that English is not your first language, but you're so well spoken.
It, Korean. I was born in Korea, so Korean was my first language growing up. But then around high school, once I left for college, I would say that kind of flipped because in university I had no reason to speak Korean, and then I also
Oh,
speak English every day. Yeah.
wow. That's trial by fire right there. I mean, they say that English is one of the hardest languages, and uh, yeah, I guess I kind of was wondering if you grew up with English as a second language because you're very well spoken. But it's stunning to me that you didn't really have to till college. My goodness.
No, I did speak it like in middle school and high school. It's definitely but in middle school and high school, I grew up in Koreatown. Also, my parents only speak Korean, so in Koreatown, a lot of like the workers there, it's usually just only Korean. And then at school, I would speak English. Uh, yeah. Um, I Melanie, your story is one that I know is going to give hope to someone else out there watching and who's because the amount of texts I get from people who go like James, like I've been trying to taper benzos, but it's difficult. Like I don't know what to do. The first question I always ask is, "Are you working with a doctor? Like don't do this on your own." But I have a feeling like when texts like that come over my way, I can actually just send this podcast. Like that's how hope
Please.
inducing this is, and I always like to wrap up these podcasts with three like speed round questions just to kind of throw you curveballs. Are you okay with that?
Sure.
Okay. The first thing is just to keep it easy is on your downtime, what do you like to do?
On my downtime?
Yeah.
Well, that's shifting. Um, I I like to create. I really love choreography. I love music. Um, like to read. As I said earlier, I hope to get into some dance classes again, just to feed my dancer spirit. I felt so shut down for such a long time that all kind of took a back seat, and it was a devastating loss. That was my identity. That was my ministry also, and I had a lot of wonderful opportunities, a wonderful career in it. And when I became so ill from the benzo withdrawal, the third time around, which would have been 10 years ago, that's when it all had to come to an end, and it about killed me. So I'm moving away. We also I refer to a family crisis. We've had estrangement in our family, and I think that that's been probably the most devastating thing I've ever gone through. Um, and moving here was part of that healing process, to not to run away because we've been immersed in it for a few years, but to begin fresh.
Mhm.
And so, I'm in the process of still getting to know this community, um, friends, all of it. That doesn't happen overnight. So I wish I had a little bit better answer for you right now, but um, yeah, to just, I'm working toward recapturing who I once was.
Mhm.
And it's a little bit sobering to be at this age and stage of life and feel like you're kind of starting over again, but I'm blessed that I have the opportunity.
I don't think it's a new book, it's a new chapter. So right now you're entering a new chapter, you're in a new place. The story continues, and you have your calm in your as one of your tools in your mental health toolbox kit. So what's one thing you want to do in this chapter that you haven't been able to do in your previous chapters?
Hmm, what do I want to do? Oh, there's so many. Um, just just to experience more of normal life. I don't have to have a mountaintop experience. Because, when you're in the throes of anxiety, you just want to be normal. You want to go to the store, go to a concert, go to wherever, and not worry about being anxious, or not worrying about, I got to get a seat on the aisle so I can have a fast escape. Things like that. It might sound really silly and stupid to people, but when that's been your life, it's the little things that really add up to the big, for me at least. I would love to travel and do big things, but to be content with the little things and to just have life feel more calm and normal, like it's meant to be, means so much to me right now. And, I know I'm speaking as a much older person. Um, you look quite young. And, I mean, you're obviously, when you're younger, you just have a different orientation toward everything. And I feel like there's different normal stages that we all go through. Um, but yeah, I would like to kind of pick up where I left off and get myself back again, because it's been a long, hard journey. And I'm really glad that you're as young as you are, and you're getting help and relief, and you're you're passing it on to people, and you have this ministry. Really, I think that God is definitely using you and has a hand in this. I mean, I was trying to tell this to this person that I was referring to, that I care deeply about, that I sent the product to, that I said, I've never had anybody take this kind of personal interest. I mean, with a situation like this, like you have, answering every text, every email, all my dumb questions, all my insecure questions, and that's been very special. I realize you're going to reach a point where you're not going to be able to do that. I don't want to see you get burnt out,
Yeah.
um, but bless you for doing it. And I just couldn't believe you even wanted to interview me. It's like, my story is so not pretty. It's just, but it is what it is.
I'm just I'm just super passionate about like my product, and I believe in it. I think like that's one. Many people who sell products, like they don't like really believe in the product, but I truly believe in it, and I know it's not going to work on all 8 billion people. It's like we've discussed, different things work better for different people, but I think it's really different because anyone who lives with anxiety disorder for a prolonged period of time, I haven't spoken with a single person who hasn't cycled through the supplements, who hasn't cycled through the treatments, who hasn't been offered a med or has taken a med. There's like everyone has like the same story. So I'm like, oh, it's not just me. And I'm like, hopefully I can help someone else out there, who it's who's going through what like 14-year-old, 15-year-old James went through. Like, because a
Yeah.
lot of my darkest moments of my time, I think one of the, it's like a blessing in disguise, is that it happened when it was so young, and and it created an opportunity for me to create calm, so that I can now use this as like a tool to help other people. One small thing on the side, we're actually going to be changing to unwind. I'm not.
Right, right.
Yeah. Um, first to hear it, guys.
That's
but
right. Yeah.
but yeah, I sidetracked. That was just such a beautiful answer. And the third question is, if you were able to speak to younger Melanie and just give her one piece of advice, she's just about to face enter this battle, what would you tell her?
Wow. That's a hard one. Um, it wouldn't be any, it wouldn't be just any one thing. I think I would tell her, you are stronger and braver than you ever think you are. Don't give up. There's an answer out there. Um, Absolutely seek God in all of this. Um, I don't have any magic answers right now. And you watch, I'll get off here and then I'll think of all these lofty things that I should have said. But um, yeah, I don't know. You referred earlier to a lot of shame and personal um, struggle in that, and I've had a lifetime of that. It's funny when I've let very few people in on this, and the few that I have would say, "I never knew that about you. No way." I mean, they can't believe that I have an anxiety disorder because I have become a master at hiding it because I've been really hurt at times by people who, they don't have the capacity to understand, bless their hearts, and they can be very, very judgmental and hard on people that struggle like this. And I'm just really blessed to be, with someone like my husband who never did that to me and would pick me up, when I couldn't pick myself up. I hope you have someone in your life like that too. Or maybe you'll be someone like, well, you already are someone like that to a lot of people. But um, it's, it's funny. I You get in a certain mindset too in this where you feel so lonely. I have seldom met anybody that's really come out about this, that's had it on the level that I've had it. And I'm not saying, oh, I'm so much worse than everybody else. I'm sure there's lots of people out there like us, but they don't talk about it. And we all say, oh, we want the stigma to end about mental illness, or I don't even know if that's the right thing to call it anymore. Um, but it doesn't seem to have that much anymore. There's a lot more awareness about it. And like you said, I think there are some good things happening as people become more aware and are not so willing to swallow everything that's told to them about this topic and not so willing to just swallow a pill for everything. Life happens. There are things that are depressing. There are things that are painful. There are things that are frightening. But that doesn't mean we have to pathologize it all. You know what I'm saying? We don't, these are normal to the human condition. And when you get in the world of psychiatry and medications, it's like the focus is off of what reality really is, and it makes a person feel shut down, like there's something really wrong with me. I can't handle this, painful thing that happened out here, or, fill in the blank, and it makes you dependent psychologically as much as physically, you
No,
know?
everyone needs a diagnosis. Uh, I think people often attach themselves to a diagnosis,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
that because of that, the way they think about things change, and that they create barriers for themselves
Yeah.
to keep themselves in that safe zone. And then
Yeah.
that when that happens, it gets very difficult to live life, and it's very difficult. And the longer you stay in this cage, it's the thicker the walls become.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, it's self preservation. It
Hmm.
really is, until you find something to give you hope, to give you a little bit of relief. It is very hard to break out of. It's a prison cell. And I'm not saying that in a critical way to people. I've lived it, and it's a lonely place to be. Um, but again, I am kinder to myself at this stage of the game. I recognize that a lot of people would be dead by now, going through everything that I went through. And also within this past 10 years, you add in not only the intense insomnia, you add in the estrangement, you add in my husband almost died from a botched surgery and had three more. We both had a mystery illness, and it was like, what is going on with us? It turned out we had unknown water damage in our house, had mold, and we were suffering from mycotoxin illness. And I mean, there's just been a cascade of really, really intense, stressful things that have happened to us. And, God above has kept his hand on us. And, I really believe that in this this whole fresh start that I referred to, that this is all part of the process, that he led me to this, to you, to, what you're selling. And I don't mean you're just selling a product. You're selling a whole different, I'm not good at articulating things sometimes. It's just an entirely different way to look at things, and it is a very hopeful way to look at things. And it feels wonderful to not be using something artificial, you know, and knowing that I'm not going to be causing harm in my body or my gut or my brain from this. And yeah, I'm really grateful. I think to add into the mix too, to as much as humanly possible, that people try to practice gratitude. Um, there are days that are black and dark, but there's usually something in there to be grateful for still. And I've really tried to shift my focus in that direction the last few years, when things just got so intense again. And um, I never thought that I would have gone through four benzo battles like I did. So
I think I agree with what your psychiatrist told you. I think you're one of the most bravest person I've ever met. Like that's
oh, thank you.
going through those battles is will make anyone else give up, and it's just amazing that you're able to push through to get to where you are today, to magically have me calm from a small post on Facebook to slowly building the foundations back for a normal life, all aligned with having being in a physical new place in a new city. It's just like everything just intertwined beautifully. I think it's
Thank
everything
you.
happened for a reason.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at it that way. I sure don't profess to understand a lot of things. I think on this earth we won't. You know, we it's like the word says, we see through a glass darkly right now, but then we will know in full. We don't get to know it all here on this earth, but there's life is hard, but it's also got a lot of beauty to it. And the resiliency of um, the good things that come out in humans. With the way the world is right now, it takes intention to not ignore them, but to not put your focus on all of that,
Mm-hmm.
and to shift your mind in other directions, and to have that attitude of gratitude. I don't understand why someone in Nigeria is being martyred, why their houses are being burnt down. I don't understand the brutality of human nature at times. And then I look at where I'm at. I don't know why I'm so blessed and lucky to be here now where I am, to have a warm bed, to have a roof over my head, to have a life partner that is wonderful, an amazing family, kids, grandkids. So there's always going to be somebody who's worse off than you are, and there's also going to be people that are better off. But we're somewhere in between, and to try to keep the main thing, I guess, is what we have to strive for. And I don't know. I have another person very dear to me, very young, who is must have the family genes, is going through um, panic disorder. Hit her around the same age as it originally did me, and it's so awful to watch her go through this. She is not open to me. She's not open to, and she's medicated, and it's really hard. But I hope that someday, somehow, you know, it'll make a difference for someone else. Maybe eventually for her. She's in my prayers a lot. But yeah, I really appreciate your wanting to talk with me about this. I don't know what people are searching for. Um, I know that I always had wished through the years that I could meet somebody like me. I mean, who knows exactly what I'm going through, and not only that, but who has now found something that is helpful. It's maybe not a magic bullet, but it's giving me hope that I haven't had in a long time. It's giving me relief that I haven't had in a long time. So I'm just so grateful. I really am.
I'm grateful to have you on the call to share this story, and um, I'm thankful that you gave us an opportunity to be a part of your journey. And I'm very excited to see how things are going to be 3 6 months down from now. And when I know we're going to be staying in touch, and
I hope so.
hopefully when we'll have a podcast in the middle of next year, and you're going to tell me all the cool things you did, and you traveled and made all these new friends at your new town. And I'm looking forward to our second follow-up podcast if you're open to it. Yeah.
Sure, of course. And I guess I'd also like to say that should someone see this, and um, I'm very open to talking with someone for you to put me in contact with someone that might reach out. I was an admin on a private Facebook page for a while that was helping people with benzo withdrawal, and that was very redemptive for me too. Um, it got to be very intense. People who are in great need in the middle of the night want to reach out to you and whatnot, and I did that for a season, and I'm very willing to help in other ways now as they present themselves. So we'll just see what God has in store about that. And but feel free, to put me in touch with someone that you think might benefit. And I will send you. I'll send you a couple of things from Dr. Whit Daring for you to
Yeah.
look over, because I really do think that that's a way for people who want to do a responsible taper, to go with him and to really hear his perspective, and to really take it to heart that it needs to be slow and low. We all want it gone, we all want it done, but that is not the way to go. And my story is living proof of that. So there's better ways to do it. And boy, if I only would have had the calm through the whole thing, I think it could have made a big difference.
Yeah.
I found myself wishing that we didn't live, clear across the country from each other. Because if I was in your area, I'd be like, how do I get on board with this? How can I help? What do I do? You know?
Well, I truly appreciate. No, you're doing plenty, and just hopping on and sharing, because it's not easy to sharing the story, and just sharing your stories is more than I can ever ask for. And I think I really like that idea. I think I might create a private Facebook group with all the calm customers, or maybe I think there's a software called School, which does like a little bit better than that, but you don't have to worry about that. I might actually go and get the ball rolling on that, and let's help as many people as we can.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. Well, just take care of yourself in the process.
Thank
You
you.
know, don't get burnt out. Are your parents anywhere around, or are they over in Korea?
They are in Koreatown, Los Angeles, so a few hours north for me.
Oh, good. I'm glad you got some family nearby, and yeah.
Yeah. Well, Melanie, really appreciate you taking the time to hop on. If you guys have any questions for her, leave a comment down below. And she says she's cool with connecting, so I'll figure something out on that front.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, thank you all for watching. Have a healthy and happy day. Peace.
Thanks.